Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian. We're continuing through this book, which, quick reminder for anyone who's kind of come in the middle of it, it's called Punk Rock Theology. You can find it on Amazon for like $5. Today we're looking at the story of Moses, who is probably the most towering figure in the Old Testament. In most children's Bibles, there's as much time dedicated to Moses as there is to Jesus. So naturally, I don't have time to go through everything about him today. What I want to focus on is the way we treat him like he's a special person, but he's just a person like you and me. So let's look at the story like it's about a normal human being and see what we can find. Exodus 1:22 says, Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River, but you may let the girls live. I did some digging. Scholars estimate that the population of the Hebrews at this point in time is about the size of the city of Houston, Texas. And so if you take that big of an area and every boy that's born is executed on the spot, this is not something we would just gloss over and read past. It's in this context that Moses is born, and his mother makes this little basket waterproof, puts him in it, and sticks him in the Nile River, technically fulfilling the law, just hoping to give him a chance of survival. And an amazing coincidence, Pharaoh's daughter comes and finds that basket, finds this baby in it, and has compassion on him and goes, oh my goodness, it's one of the Hebrew children. So Moses doesn't just escape getting executed as a baby, but he ends up becoming adopted royalty. But then we skip ahead about 40 years. When Moses is an adult, he knows that he's actually one of the Israelites that he sees being enslaved and mistreated all around him. In Acts 7, Stephen's telling the story of Moses, and he says he saw an Egyptian mistreating an Israelite. So Moses came to the man's defense and avenged him, killing the Egyptian. Moses assumed that his fellow Israelites would realize that God had sent him to rescue them, but they didn't. That matters because it means Moses didn't just assume that he was in a position of power and he could get away with killing this guy. He seemingly connected the dots and assumed that he's in this unique position of power. He must be God's chosen instrument to rescue the Israelites. But he went about it the wrong way, and it didn't work out. He ends up running for his life because Pharaoh's after him now, and he spends the next 40 years as an outcast in the wilderness, no doubt completely convinced that, never mind, I am not the guy God's going to use to rescue Israel. Until the day that he famously spots a burning bush. When he goes to take a closer look, the bush starts talking to him, which, yeah, that's different. And of course it's God telling him, I've chosen you, I'm going to send you back to Israel, I see how they're being treated, and you're going to deliver them from Egypt. But Moses is so convinced, like, nah, I tried that and it didn't work, I'm out, that he goes out of his way to not take this assignment. In Exodus 3:11, Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? Which is nuts because, remember, we know exactly who he is. He's the adopted grandson of Pharaoh. He's got more credibility for this than anyone. God tells him to go. A couple verses later, Moses protested again. If I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they'll ask me, what is his name? What should I tell them? This is actually a silly objection because no one had ever mentioned a name of God before this point. So the odds of them asking for a name is virtually nil. Moses is making excuses. But God actually reveals his name in a way that had never been done before. This is a very special moment, but Moses isn't having it. In Exodus 4:1, Moses protested again. What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say, the Lord never appeared to you? Again, this is a silly argument to make because God had just told him that they would listen. But God is patient and he gives Moses some signs to prove that he's with him. Even with that, in verse 10, Moses pleaded with the Lord, oh Lord, I'm not very good with words. I never have been and I'm not now, even though you've spoken to me. I get tongue-tied, my words get tangled. At this point, I can't tell if God is frustrated or laughing, but he basically says, dude, I made your mouth in the first place. I know what I'm doing, just go. And Moses is out of excuses, but he tries one more time. In verse 13, Moses again pleaded, Lord, please send anyone else. This is where I think we see the normal humanity of Moses. We hold him up as this lofty figure because, of course, he does end up going. And God does amazing things through him. He sets him up to look like a god to the Egyptians because he ends up with his brother Aaron doing most of the speaking. And Moses is just this sort of quiet figure who holds his hand out and miracles take place. And those miracles are really cool. It's God specifically showing his power, and it's somewhere in the midst of that Moses gets it. After failing when he tried to do it on his own, and then trying so hard not to even come back and try again. But God puts him back into it, and he's with him, and he works through him time and again. And Moses witnesses what God is doing. He sees God's mighty power firsthand. He sees how much Pharaoh resists and fights it, but cannot stand up to the power of God. And he sees Israel delivered from slavery in a mind-blowing way. Moses learns the lesson that we all need to learn, and it's that he's not special, but God is. And God can can work through us if we will let him. Moses had to get out of his own way. He had to come to the point of realizing all of these things that I thought gave me such special qualifications to pull this off didn't get me anywhere. But when he just simply listened to God and did what he said, it made all the difference. It took Moses 80 years to learn that lesson. I'm hoping you and I can do it a little faster than that. And just be willing to step up and say, what can God do through us if we'll just listen to him and do what he says?